Good morning, it's Monday, March 9th, 2020, 9 a.m. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Santos, a second by Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 3 is to receive comments from the public. Anyone here wishing to address the board an item? Step to the podium. State your name and issue, address.
Move this up a bit. Edward Askew, 2952 155th Street, Muscatine, Iowa. Okay, guys, here we go again. I've got a report to give to you concerning Freedom of Information Act request to this county, what I received and such. So that's the open meetings, open records stuff. So on the 14th of last month, I requested a copy of all the electronic documentation, including the letter from SEAL saying we're not accepting Muscatine County, the most recent one. And on the 3rd of this month, I got a response back from the county, come up, pick a CD up, we've got everything you want. So I went home and looked through it, read things and such. And on the 5th of this month, I sent an email back saying, wait a moment, you didn't send me that letter that was sent from SEAL to the county saying, we're not going to accept you. And I received an email back saying, we never had that letter. So I got a hold of the SEAL board and asked them for the documents. They responded in less than an hour's time with the application letters from both times in November and in the first part of this year from the county asking to be accepted into SEAL. The letters denying the complaints or the acceptance both times, and a whole bunch of board minutes. Now the board minutes were real interesting because I looked to the board minutes in February of this year and they say, yes, Muscatine said they received the letter and they sent us an email, which I never got a copy of that email. They also, I looked back in the November minutes for SEAL, and there were 6 pages of Nathan and Felicia's basically a presentation to the board. 6 pages in the minutes. It's very interesting reading. Well, anyway, getting back to the February minutes, that's saying, hey, you guys got a letter and you sent a thank you email. So I cut and pasted that out, sent it back in to the county saying, look, they said you got it, please send me that letter. Now, even though I had it, I wanted you guys to do what I asked for. So I got an email back saying, oh, well, weren't those in the documents we gave you? That letter. Now, the letter that you said you didn't have, now you said, wasn't it in that CD that you gave us? So my final email back was, okay, I'm going to Microsoft, basically Windows 7. I'm going to use their Explorer. I'm going to take a screenshot of all of the files that are on that CD. And then I'm going to take a screenshot of the files you just got through sending me, Muscatine, which had the letter in it this time. Compare the two, none of the file names are the same. The first set sent to me were not the same as the second set sent to me. So what I'm saying to you all is on these FOIA requests, make sure they're complete when you send it back. And make sure you review your records, that if you've got that document, you just say, hey, look, we forgot to send it to you, here it is. I had to go to a different governmental agency to get the documents, and then to get confirmation that you guys received the documents. So, I've got that all lined out here for you, and I'll just pass it out. This is for your records, and it is a chronology, dates and times of the emails. If you wish copies of all of those emails, please let me know. Now, some of them you already have, because when I responded back, it went to Board of Supervisors. But some of the ones, like the documents I received from SEAL or the minutes, all of those things, if you want them, please contact me and I'll be more than happy to create. Now, I will tell you something else. If you convert a email to an Adobe document, PDF, unless you tell it when it does the conversion to convert all of the attachments, it doesn't convert the attachments. So some of the PDF files I got of emails said, with the attachment you will see. Well, there was no attachment. So that's something to take a look at. I'm just giving you a history of what happened. Also, Mr. Beck got a hold of me this weekend. They are proceeding with developing a 4-county budget. He gave me the time and the date of the next budget meeting. Sometime at the end of this month, they're gonna have their general meeting. I recommend again to this board, draft a letter. Geez, take the ones you sent to Seal and just change the names. Draft a letter and ask to be admitted back into Eastern Iowa and take a step ahead of the state DHS, because who knows what they're going to do and who knows what type of services we may not have in the interim time. This is all up in the air.
Ed, when did you say they were gonna have their budget meeting to start developing the?
I'll have to go back and look at the email Mr. Beck sent.
End-ish of the month, you think?
I think probably it's going to be a week from this Monday is when they're going to have their budget working meeting, I think. I'll have to go back and look at the email. It's
16th.
not this week.
Scheduled for the 16th is the last I
Got it.
Yeah.
understood.
So-
There's been some movement on it. I
Right.
don't know exactly what they landed on.
And they don't know when they're gonna have. He said they couldn't give me the time for their general meeting. But geez Louise, get that letter drafted. It's not gonna take much. If they say no, they say no. But take the step forward to do that. And again, you got copies of the letters you already sent to Seal. Change the names. It's not gonna take much to redraft those. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to share this morning? Okay, item number 4 is discussion and possible action to approve claims dated March 9th, 2020 in the amount of $789,366.57.
Second.
Have a motion by Scott and a second by
I just have one
Santos.
question on that,
Yes.
and I don't, Sherry, and if you can answer this. The very last entry on page 1 is, $10,500 entry into the attorney's office. It says Sweetland Trailers, do you know what that is?
That's, Alan sent you guys an email about that about a week ago. They purchased a trailer that's set up like
The
a,
drug trailer?
Yeah, the
Okay,
drug trailer.
that's what I thought, great,
yep, that's exactly.
thank you,
Yep.
He used his forfeiture dollars.
good. Perfect.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 5 is discussion and possible action on a request from Prevent Violence Coalition for permission to place blue pinwheels and signs in the Muscatine County Courthouse flower planters along the sidewalk at the Muscatine County Jail and in front of the Community Services Building for April's Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month with Jen Wagner.
May I step in real quick? This young gentleman didn't know he needed to step up and talk during the public comment period, so if you have a time for him, he's gonna talk about Special Olympics, if you have time.
Okay, how about we'll finish up with Jen and then we'll invite you to the podium. Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Morning, guys. Jen Wagner with Prevent Violence Coalition. Just standard ask again for April's Child Abuse Prevention Month. Just permission to do that probably the first week of April we put them out, and then clean up the last week of April.
okay, so this is up for action, so
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott. Any discussion? I think you've always done a great job of promoting awareness and keeping it cleaned up and nice, and we really appreciate the group's efforts and your efforts. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to the public comment section. Did you want to step to the podium, state your name and address and what you'd like to share with the board this morning?
Hi, my name is Corey Leonard. I live here in Muscatine. I'm author in Special Olympics of Muscatine. I've been in Special Olympics for over 37 years. From when I started, originally from Columbus Junction, Iowa. That's where I started my Special Olympics career. Because when I was in Special Olympics, we didn't have no track or no wide to run around and practice. When I was in elementary school, while I was in Special Olympics, we had to run on the school building or to the fence and back, then practice doing the standing long jump on the sidewalk. Then when I moved to Muscatine, then I got to do workout at the Y for Special Olympics and that. Special Olympics has meaned a lot to me. I've been all over the world, if you guys didn't recognize that, but I've been all over. I've been over the island in China. I supported Special Olympics a lot, and I love it. And I want my young athletes to have the same opportunity as I did when I was growing up and younger, so they can have fun and meet new people and make new friends. I just love Special Olympics, and I don't want to see that leave without.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us
Thank you,
this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're on item number 6 on our agenda, items with the planning and zoning administrator here. Item number 6A is discussion of possible action to approve the Muscatine County Property Acquisition Administrative Plan for FEMA-funded acquisition project.
So like anything involving FEMA funding, it's long and drawn out and complicated. This is the title of this document. It's basically a guiding document that lays out somewhat of a flow chart on how the acquisition project will go, the expectations of the people interested in selling their property, the process for appeals, the definition of a purchase price, how those prices are arrived at. It's just a required document that we have to adopt. It's generally boilerplate language provided by Homeland Security for us to use, recommended, just personalized for our project. So just asking for your approval of the administrative plan for the acquisition project. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them. If you had a chance to look through it, but
Where did this looks, no offense, looks like it was adapted from some other things. What are the sources we have from this? Is this kind of a FEMA standard?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very standard.
Okay, so we're looking for,
I'll move to approve.
have a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Santos. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Other,
I believe that's all I have.
well, maybe you should, I see that and I don't know if it's been signed by the governor, but the governor sent the note, maybe you just give a brief note on that, maybe a couple of the potential impacts that the board might have to be dealing with here in the next month or so.
And I caught me off guard, I won't be able to recall the actual bill
Well,
numbers, but
Yeah,
in summary, there was some legislation that was passed by the House and the Senate. I haven't received word that it's been signed by the governor yet. It's gonna make some changes to the authority counties have through zoning as it applies to farm exempt properties. There is some concern that other counties in Iowa have adopted kind of an anti-agricultural land use policy or slant towards those policies that were obviously of great concern to some legislators, Farm Bureau lobby. Apparently the solution proposed and moved forward in Des Moines was to take away some of the ability of counties to screen potential farm exemptions. Of particular concern is we can no longer, once the bill is, the law goes into effect, we'll no longer be allowed to require applications for those seeking farm exemption. Just to clarify, properties in Iowa that are primarily adapted by use and reason of nature for farming are exempt and have been exempt from zoning and building for quite some time. Over the years, we developed an application that was a very cooperative endeavor with the farmers and zoning to have them provide some very basic evidence that they are running an active farm. When that was proven, they were granted exemption from zoning and building laws, as has been the case in Iowa for years. This bill will no longer allow us to require an application. So our concern is that someone who believes that they are a farmer will just start building a building, and the burden will be thrown back on my office to determine whether a farm exemption is appropriate in that case. And you can just about imagine it kind of puts us immediately in an adversarial and confrontational situation, where before the process was very streamlined. We charged no fee for that application, and we were able to prove and disprove farm exemptions in an expedited manner. This is gonna complicate things quite a bit.
And then you said our Board of Adjustment, we may have to make some changes there to our,
Right, one of the other provisions of the bill, again, it was, the impetus was some anti-agriculture land use policies by some other counties, so they changed the rules for Board of Adjustment and Zoning Commission membership, that all members of those boards must reside in the unincorporated areas of the county. Currently, we're required to have a majority, which has worked quite well, because it is very hard to keep these volunteer boards filled. And occasionally, we would have an interested applicant that lived in one of our small towns, which brought diversity to the board. It actually brought a minority voice, so it wasn't arguably all farmers on the board or all strictly agricultural people. We no longer will be able to enjoy that advantage of having to consider applications from small towns. If they are incorporated, the residents of those towns will no longer be eligible. And in fact, the law states when it goes into effect, we will have to vacate any members of the board, the current board or zoning commission, that do not meet the new eligibility requirements. So we do have a person that lives in an incorporated area, and that we will have to vacate that position and toss them from the board, and then try to find a replacement for them. So it's gonna be a burden, it's gonna make it harder. We'll just but these are the cards that we're dealt.
I call those the unintended consequences. Okay. So just an FYI, so that bill, it looks like it's on its way to the governor for signature, we don't know yet, but, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Anything else for Eric?
Jeff, can I interrupt 1 second? I've had an emergency turn up that I'm gonna need to leave. Could I quick do the canvas right now?
Yes, that
so
would
I
be
could-
fine. So we're
so
gonna
that I
go to
could turn
item
the meeting
number
over
8,
and I could leave?
canvass the tier 1 of the West Liberty's special revenue purpose statement election held on March 3rd, 2020.
The election was held last Tuesday out in West, it's for West Liberty School. It was just to pass their, to vote on a new revenue purpose statement. The votes, this is the first tier canvas, because we also had Johnson and Cedar County in this election. Johnson County waived their right to hold the election in their county, and because they didn't have very many voters, and gave it to us, so I held the election. So the results today are for myself in Johnson County. And then next week, we will hold the second tier, which is to add in the Cedar County votes. So we won't actually declare that it's passed or anything today, but we will just be doing our results today, and then next week we will make it final. So the results were 70 votes yes, 10 votes no, 0 overvotes, 0 undervotes, and so there were 80 votes total. Like I said, we will next week add in, there were only 2 votes out in Cedar County, so I don't think it's gonna change anything, but we will add those in next week and make it final.
Okay,
So, thank you, sorry about that.
no problem. We'll let Leslie and Betty change spots here to
Sorry.
keep our minutes. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7 are items with the county engineer, Keith White. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Item 7A is discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits.
Okay, we have one utility permit this morning from Eastern Iowa Light and Power, REC, of Wilton, Iowa. And they are requesting to bore a 2-inch duct, 8 foot deep, on the south side of Highway 927, Old 6, whatever. They are near Scott County's 30th Avenue, and this is basically, again, relocating out of the way of our project up there. They're removing the pole and going underground with a stretch.
So moved. Have a motion by Nathan. Second. Second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 7B is discussion of possible action to approve resolution 0309-2001 authorizing weight embargoes on secondary roads. The resolution will allow the county engineer to place 11-ton weight restrictions on various county roads as deemed necessary to protect the road.
Are you gonna speak about it, Keith, or? No, I move to approve.
Have a motion by Scott.
Second.
I have a second by Nathan.
This is roll call.
I thought we already had this done.
We gotta do it every year.
We do it every year.
Oh,
So, yeah, I would just mention that this is, we do it customarily every spring. The engineer and his staff will review roads with the frost coming out and the weather, and look, any roads that look to be in jeopardy of getting torn up by heavy loads, and they'll implement the embargo, and we delift them as quickly as possible. This is just to protect the county roads in the wet spring. So this is a roll call vote. Any further discussion? This is a roll call vote. Santos?
aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Scott?
Aye.
Motion carries. I see you got a little rain just in time.
Yeah, I mean, conditions change rapidly this time of year. That's why we put that, I mean, we're hoping that this won't be as severe on the seal coats at least as last year,
Yep.
but the weather will tell. We're probably gonna have some roads that have to get
And,
marked.
you know, this is probably something, as we look at, you know, I remember last year we had a little bit of an issue, and maybe as we issue building permits, we make sure that builders are aware that this time of year, they need to be checking with the county engineer before they're doing any hauling to sites, to make sure that they're not violating any of our embargoes, because we did have some road issues last year because of that. Okay, item C is discussion possible action to approve the FY 2020 Muscatine DOT secondary roads budget and secondary roads construction plan, the 5-year plan as amended.
Yes, and these, the bottom line, at least these are exact numbers that are published for the upcoming county amendment. Essentially, when we prepared the 20 budget in December of 18, you know, we're guessing what's happening between then and the end of the fiscal year, and really the couple big items occurred. One was, but the weather, lots of raining, lots of flooding. We had almost $2 million in hot mix asphalt that Illinois was our contractor, and they're out on Highway 22, and they'd get flooded out, and so it delayed it across the fiscal year. So way back in December 18, we guessed we'd end the year with about $1.5 million, when in fact we ended it with $3 million. So that's a new, the numbers that you have now, which would say estimated receipts current, those are actually from the annual report. So those are what actually occurred. You know, we thought we were gonna have 10 million, well, about 11 million in income, and that stayed the same. But we had a much bigger beginning balance. Expenditures were way down, hence they carried over into this fiscal year. So the need to up what's in the maintenance side of the budget. Construction we're leaving the same. Construction, here's the reality on the construction. What's this spring gonna be? There's, I think we've only done about 800,000 of that 2 million. Will the rest of it happen between now and June 30? Don't know. But that's the driving force. And so these are the same numbers same totals that are in the proposed county amendment. So we do need to amend the DOT one this year though.
So do we look for a motion to accept that amendment?
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Projects update. How we doing out there, Keith?
Pretty good, actually. Most things have not started, as I've noted before, but the 120th Street bridge replacement west of West Liberty, it's actually a box. They've got all the concrete work done in the better weather poured, so they're literally waiting, and might be a while, for things to dry out, and there is frost out there in some of the dirt for the frost to melt, and then they'll start backfilling. So it's really weather driven to get that finished and open. That progressed actually relatively well, and I think that's about all that's new in the world of projects as of today. I do want to note, I brought down the contract documents for the 2 local lettings we did back in February, and you guys awarded those bids, so we do have the contracts, bonds, insurance certificate on L 207370 and LFM FU7 7X70, which one's the pipe culverts various locations, the other's the subdrains and culverts up on Old 6. Just, let's see the numbers that I just read off. And I guess I'll also touch briefly on FEMA. We are now showing all the things obligated. Eric's demolition being the last one, at least on my stuff, it's obligated, so we should be getting payment on the last couple. It's interesting, like I said, it just obligated, and yet the time on that, and one of Kurt's runs out March 23rd, which, it literally just gave you the money, and the state's already out of authority to extend anything, but I really do think their focus is on western Iowa. And we've submitted the extension request, but they have to go all the way to FEMA to get more time on that. Other than that, I guess I've had some questions on our stuff too, which, we'll be back to work on some of ours come better weather. But that's about all I got. Any questions on anything?
I just had a question on what we'd had for the budget that you amended. What was the big jump on the bridge replacement funds?
I think the big jump is just simply the project's moving from one fiscal year to the next, but let me get this in front of me.
Okay, everything else seemed to be okay, just didn't understand what was that big one.
Dated receipts, bridge funds. Yeah, because we had originally thought that we were gonna get about 264,574 in there, and we only got 14,574. At the time we did it, that 14 was probably already in hands, and we guessed 250,000 more. But it came on, came this way. The other change is from BR, from the old 80% to 100% reimbursement too, so picked up another 20%. That's the big jump.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else for Keith this morning? Keith, did you have anything else for the board?
No.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, item number 9 is discussion of possible action to approve a renewal application and ownership change for the Class BV beer, includes wine cooler, Sunday sales and outdoor sales service permit for the city of Muscatine, doing business as the Muscatine Municipal Golf Course, 1820 Highway 38, Muscatine, Iowa.
Move to approve.
A motion from Scott, Second from Nathan.
Is this a renewal that we do every 3 years or every year?
Every year.
Every year.
Okay.
And the change of ownership was because, to change it from Mansinger to Jenkins.
So that'll eventually have to change again, I
Yes.
assume?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 10 is discussion of possible action to approve a renewal application for the Class C beer, liquor, Sunday sales, outdoor service permit for West Liberty Golf and Country Club, 1248 Country Heights Lane, West Liberty, Iowa.
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Santos. Almost called you Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number is 11, discussion of possible action to approve the minutes of the March 2nd, 2020 regular meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Correspondence, Santos.
I had 2 calls on Special Olympics and one letter that, I don't know if you guys got, but it was just a informational budget income statement that I had gotten from the Y they shared with me. So I assumed you guys would have got one, but if you didn't, it's what it is.
I did not see that.
And then I got another email question just in regards to the future meeting that we're gonna have with the city. And then I had one more email in regards to flooding and future flooding, just questions about information that we had gotten from the bi-state. I shared with them the meteorologist report, very good information, and then that's all I had.
And Nancy, I'll just clarify, the meeting, the date's been set, correct? We have on the joint meeting?
Yes, it's the 24th.
24th at 7:30 PM, and location is still up in the air a little bit. It's looking like Discovery Center, probably at the Environmental Learning Center is the next, we've kind of been running into space problems.
Do we have thoughts on an agenda yet?
The only planned thing on the item on the agenda is to have the levy stakeholder, Rich Dwyer, who has been leading a lot of that, and have the levy stakeholder group do a history and update on where we are, what's been done, and kind of what the next potential steps are there. So that'll be it's a pretty lengthy, that's been a 5 or 7 year process.
Absolutely.
So that's the initial meeting, that's the intent of it.
I did get a call from one of the channel stations. I'm not even gonna say which one because I don't remember, but wanting to know if we knew the agenda. And I had sent an email to Nancy, and that was all I replied, that I believe that it was the levy stakeholder meeting. And then they wanted the location. I said I didn't know. I actually told them I thought it was the library. So if we do get that, obviously there's.
We attempted to get the library, but that room was not available that evening.
Okay.
So then they went to a couple other choices, so right now it looks like environmental learning is gonna be our best opportunity, we hope. Okay. Nathan, did you have any correspondence?
Got an email from someone who had a tire they say was blown on down a county road. I think I forwarded that on. Did you get that, Santos? Maybe it came to the Board of Supervisors address at least. I thought it did, but
It did.
did you get it?
I got it.
Okay, so maybe Nancy could share it with all of us.
Okay.
I didn't see it, but you sent it this morning, so I'll probably get it.
Yeah, and it did. Yeah, I also had let's see. I forgot to tell Leslie. I had a citizen inquire about nuisance laws and talked to Eric about that. And then, I just had a question from the media about the joint city-county meeting. And that was all for me. But I did want to ask, since we're talking about correspondence, I know you copied us on the the communications between yourself and Dr. Askew, Nancy. Has he gotten everything he wants? I was kind of confused by what he was saying.
I believe so.
Okay.
And I think some of that confusion is, he was asking for the letter from Seal that told us we weren't going to be accepted.
And there wasn't one.
We never got a
Because they
letter.
voted on it, right?
Right, we received, a copy of the recommendations from the finance committee that were going to the Seal board. It wasn't addressed to us, so I think that's where some of the confusion was.
All right, so as long as he's got everything, it looks like it all happened in a couple days, so, thank you.
Yep. That it?
That's all I have.
Okay, I had, the correspondence I had was I had a meeting on, I don't know, last week, one day, with, John Becky and, Cheryl Plank with Vision 2020 to talk about their funding requests and our inability to fund this year, and, indicated we do support their efforts, but it's just not in the cards right now. So, it was a good meeting, and they did ask that maybe, and this is something we'll put on for future discussion, is John had asked if we would write a letter to kind of indicate that he wants to go to some of his other potential funders that, yes, the county supports this initiative, it's just not in the fund availability now, to help him kind of shore that up a little bit, and I thought that the board would be willing to do that, because I do believe we support the effort to streamline the administration in some of these not-for-profit or agencies that are critical around here. Okay, so, maybe I'll draft something up and then bring that to the courts. Scott?
I had no correspondence, nor did I have any committee reports.
Okay, that's the next thing. And I had no committee reports. Nathan?
On Wednesday, I had the Muscatine County Health Association Board. We had a nice presentation from Sue Johansson on the women's suffrage movement, and I think it's called Hard Won But Not Done, and the efforts that they have continuing today. On Thursday, we had our magic orientation. That was from me and Peggy Gordon of the city. Yesterday, we had, and Keith was there as well, we had an excellent Veterans Appreciation Day, or Veterans Appreciation Dinner down at the Muscatine Armory, and there were, I think, over 160 people were scheduled to show up. It had to be more than that were there. I mean, probably at least 200. It was very well attended. I just commend Jen Watkins, who put it together on our end, and I can't remember the name of the Scott County, or the Louisa County representative, but he also worked. And one of the things I was encouraged to see, they had a lot of folks there that could provide services and information to veterans. One of the really neat things was a mobile counseling wagon for aiding veterans with mental and health issues. Apparently, we had the newest wagon. It had like these 2 counseling centers in it. It's like a big RV. It had a bathroom and a kitchenette. There's 80 of these things going around the country.
80?
80 of these going around the country that provide these kinds of services, and it's absolutely fascinating. The guy Shane, who took delivery of this thing in December, it was a really good conversation. They provide great services in mental health for veterans, so it's a really, really good thing to see.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
I had no meetings.
No committee reports? Okay. Item 14 is to receive information from county employees. Does anybody have anything? No. Item 15, items with the administration office. 15A, review and possible action to approve a revised class specification and grade assignment for an eligibility support specialist. Possible action to approve step placement for existing employee in revised position.
Right, so as part of Felicia's efforts to kind of shore up where work can be reassigned in that office, and in conjunction with the position that was eliminated at the end of December, those duties and the duties of one individual have been combined. So this new position is covering both of those sets of duties. And because of combining the two, the 2 positions that were combined, one was an 8, one was a 7. The 2 combined, my grade recommendation is that it be placed in grade 8. And then the second piece of it is to the existing employee that took on those additional responsibilities. It's a recommendation for, our salary administration program says that when an employee gets assigned to a new grade, the board determines what step they go in at. And so Felicia and I took a look at that, and our recommendation to you is that this person be placed in a grade 7, or step 7 in the new grade.
So you're looking at approval for both of those in this?
Yes.
So to put that individual in a step 7 in the grade 8.
Yep.
So when they come in like a step 7, does that mean that they can eventually move up to another level, or is that where they're always at?
We have multiple grades in our salary program, and then each grade has a number of steps. The lower grade positions have 12 steps, or we actually have some that are below that. We have some that I believe have 8 steps. We have some that have 12 steps, and then we have some that have 20 steps. This particular position falls in that middle group, so I believe there's 12 steps for this position.
And those steps are adjusted for inflation. We have a, when we do our salary work at the year, we adjust those steps
Right,
according to.
each year the board takes a look at, and typically approves an adjustment to the scale, so the entire scale moves. If people within the scale, if you're not at the maximum, then each year on your anniversary date, you're eligible for a step.
Okay. I'll move to approve it
So I
as
have a motion
presented.
by Santos. Second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item B is discussion of possible action to approve request to hire a community services receptionist above the minimum step for the grade.
And again, Felicia went through the typical hiring process. The candidate that they've selected actually currently works at MCSA, so is very familiar with the clientele that they will be interacting with. She has, certainly has relevant experience, and so Felicia's asking to hire her in at step 6.
So this is a role that was already filled at one time and no
Right,
longer.
this was a vacant position that they were filling. The person who was in this job transferred to an opening in the sheriff's office for the civil.
Civil deputy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got a lot of experience in this area. I
Okay.
completely agree with the request.
So you're gonna make, is that a motion?
Sure, why not?
So I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Item C, review and possible action authorizing the chair to sign a local workforce development area chief elected official liability agreement for a new region being formed by combining Region 9, which is our current workforce board region, and Region 16, which is those counties listed to the south of us. I'll take a stab at this. So if you recall my conversation from the regional workforce board, these workforce boards were organized 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And so there are 4 specific titles of unemployment support that we are responsible to deliver through federal legislation, the WIOA, as they call it, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. We, as a county board, we are responsible for the Title I activities to deliver and manage those in this area. The way the state of Iowa, we have done this for a number of years. I've been on this committee since my start on the Board of Supervisors, roughly 10 years now. And we've been in a state of flux over the last few years. So what has kind of happened in this region, and I'll speak specifically of Region 16, or Region 9, I'm sorry. Our Title I service provider has been the Eastern Iowa Community College. And so about 5 years ago, the federal government said, Iowa, state of Iowa, you are not in compliance with federal regulation. And what does that mean? We are responsible for the dollars. As a board, we get about 1.2 million dollars for Title I services in this area, in this region. So if the federal government comes in and say you're out of compliance and you've misspent the funds, guess who has to backfill those dollars? County budget. So it's important, and it's important that we meet the legislation. You may have heard me say over the last few years that there's a few things about this process that I've never liked. And actually, if you go to the legislation, the federal legislation, it was kind of an interpretation of the federal legislation, kind of a goofed up one that got us where we are, so it actually cleans it up by going to the federal legislation. But anyway, we've been working for a number of months. I would say Region 9, which we are part of now, is way behind. We must be compliant by July 1st. We have a lot of work to do. Now, fortunate for us that region, and I say we're behind because in this process, because you have three functions. You have a one-stop operator, you have Title I, which runs the job center, which is in Davenport, so they do the Title I services out of there. And then you have the fiscal agent. And we've all heard a lot about fiscal agents in the last few months, so we understand what they do, right? And there's board staff. And because the way that it is operated in our region, not true of all regions, but in this region, because Eastern Iowa Community College did that, they got all the dollars and then they just did all the stuff. They ran the board, they did the fiscal agent, they were the Title I service provider, and the federal legislation says you cannot do that. Those all three positions must be competitively procured, and you can't be two. You can't be, if you're doing Title I services, you can't be the fiscal agent. So we have to split them, and Eastern Iowa Community College has said, we're out. So, and they've done all of our board support, so we're kind of a little bit troubled. Currently our Title I provider has done all the help for us, and she's kind of been forced to back away. So what's happened in Region 16, they have board staff that they've hired independent, and you may hear me at some point recommend that we engage that board staff to help us through this transition. But she's doing all the paperwork for them. They're just about compliant. And so the plan is to then get compliance, we'll copy their paperwork, we'll get compliant, and then we're gonna merge. And so this is basically authorizing me to sign those documents for Muscatine County to make that happen. And again, this all has to happen by July 1. We've been in conversation, I have another meeting this week with a fiscal agent, so who would wanna do this? And so Southeast Iowa Planning Agency is interested in potentially being that fiscal agent. I'd spoken with Denise Boulat at my state. She says, yeah, we don't really, that's not something we've ever done, we're not interested. So again, your fiscal agent has to be able to accept federal dollars, they have to be able to deal with that whole bureaucracy. So planning agencies are, to my mind, perfect places for them if they, So you have, the deal is, so we have to hire a workforce board director, workforce board staff, and then we have to have a fiscal agent. And we're allowed 10% of the funds. So if you just do the math for the Quad City area, our region, we're about 1 million, 1.1 million. We got $100,000 to get all that done. It's not gonna happen. So basically, if we combine these two workforce areas, we're at about a $2.2 million, and we think that
You could do that with
gives us a couple
200,000.
$100,000. So we have enough dollars at that 10%, because we think it's gonna be about 7% is gonna be for fiscal agent services. And then the rest will be board staff and director who's gonna have to run all the meetings, do all the things, and that work.
When you mentioned that Region 16 has already maybe been a few steps ahead of Region 9 in regards to that, do they already have those separate groups already, or?
They have the agreements, they're really close to selecting the fiscal agent, and then the other thing that we'll have to get done is we have to competitively procure these services. So we have to go out and so there is a little bit of a challenge here because again, the contract with Eastern Iowa Community College, and they run the job center up in the Quad Cities done July 1st. And so by July 1st, we need to have competitively procured a new Title I provider and had them in place. Now, the complicator here is that there are these, and I'll forget the name, but what are these workforce centers? There's 16 of them in Iowa, and actually we will have 2 in our region. So there might be the IWD, Iowa Workforce Development Group, helping us with this, has indicated that, more than likely, we will get one Title I provider that would that will run both job centers. And you say, well, what does that mean? Well, we have a director in that job center. So you're probably not gonna have 2 directors.
Oh,
So
okay.
we may be able to get more service dollars, which is, I think, what we're all after in the end on this, so. It's complicated, typical federal legislation, we're moving along, and
We're
this
glad
is my
you're doing it.
request to just authorize me to sign these agreements, so that our plan is, at the end of this month, is we're gonna put a letter, we've already sent a letter of intent to merge. That didn't need board actions because the CEO group was capable of doing that, because they talked with their workforce board. But to do the merger, we need to have this liability agreement, and needs to be signed by us.
So it's just gonna follow the same outlines as the Region 16 liability agreement?
Yeah, it actually, I don't know if I gave it to you, I thought I shared that with everybody. They've already done it. I sent it to Alan, he's looked at it, saw no issues with it. We're just gonna add the 4 additional counties to it.
Well, I'll move to approve as presented.
So I have a motion by Santos,
Second that.
second by Nathan. Any further discussion?
Just thank you for doing all that follow-up.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Negative.
I don't either. So any other board members, everything for the good of? Seeing nothing else, meeting is adjourned.